belly of the news beast in the heart of Lower Manhattan in New York. It's AFA Today on AFR Talk. And if you're watching on the AFA channel, that's a shot of the very busy area that is Times Square today. But it's kind of a rainy, crummy day in New York. Cold, it's like in the low 50s. But we're glad to be here nonetheless. Kevin McCullough is my name. My phone number is 888-589-8840. Okay, so I gave you kind of an overview of some of the news that's going on. I want to tactfully and in a very friendly way take on some of my talk radio brethren. Because in the last week, there have been a couple of stories that have not exactly thrilled certain people, but I'm concerned about how we, meaning the Christian/conservative/Tea Party what the left would say, the ultra right wing in America. I don't believe that we are. I think we're pretty mainstream. I think common sense says that people think that their children should live, and it's just that's not wacky. Although someone called in on this show and said it was. Anyway, there's a situation that has arisen at Cedarville University in Ohio. And Cedarville is a Christian college, Christian liberal arts college, not meaning that it's liberal, meaning that they offer liberal arts educational courses. You can become a mainstream teacher, other things that they offer through the program there. And here's what happened. There's a professor that was working there, and he taught French. Parlez-vous français? That probably would fail. But anyway, he teaches the French language in one of the foreign language divisions. And he has announced and is running for the nomination in his state against the current Speaker of the House, John Boehner, who I find to be almost constantly, 24 hours a day, frustrating. Because there are things that he will do from time to time that irritate me to no end, and then he'll turn around just when I'm ready to write him off altogether. He'll do something halfway good, and so I find myself going back and forth. Why do we have to have such wishy-washy leadership, et cetera, et cetera? But this guy, like many in the Tea Party movement, I would say most actually, feel like the speaker has abandoned a lot of the grassroots and is just kind of playing to a corporatist, kind of statist mentality on issues as it relates to what he's doing in the House. Enter the professor at Cedarville University and Ohio Christian College, J.D. Winteregg. The New York Daily News called him a long-shot candidate challenging the speaker in midterm elections. But the New York Daily News says what he lacks in name recognition, he makes up for in creativity. And this is why they say this. Do you know those intimacy enhancement commercials that feature there's always these couples looking longingly into each other's eyes, and there's some voiceover guy talking like this, and when the time is right, and blah blah blah. Okay, so those ads kind of have a certain persona about certain medical conditions that middle-aged men sometimes face. This man, working at a Christian college, puts on a campaign ad for his campaign against Mr. Boehner, in which he fills it with double entendre. So he makes fun of the speaker's last name in a sexually explicit and provocative way. He plays on the word dysfunction, and instead of the word that they use on all the commercials, he calls it electile. You get it? Like elections, like electile. So these are the things that just run throughout the ad. The ad's 60 seconds long. There's probably 40 of these little wink-winks to this spoof that they've done about this subject matter, creating a bad picture of Speaker Boehner, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I have the news stories. New York Daily News reports that he got fired from Cedarville University. I got an email in my inbox this morning from Rusty Humphreys, a syndicated talk show host out of somewhere else who's big with the Tea Party, wherever he is, Nevada, Utah, wherever. And he was actually going so far as to not only saying that liberals at Cedarville University had fired the guy, he was saying that the liberals at Cedarville University were promoting and lifting up and trying to advance Mr. Boehner in the election. I've heard one or two other voices. One of them that I'm quite close to, my friend Steve Dace, who has not made a lot of comment about it. He just said, I get tired of these guys, meaning, you know, what he's imaging as the very hypersensitive guys that, you know, fire the guy. Now, I started hearing about the story on Saturday. Saw a couple of links to it, and it wasn't until today that the Drudge Report had it on the front page, and then these all start getting inundated from all these talk show hosts that are associated with the Tea Party. Let me set something straight. Cedarville University didn't fire the guy because he was against Speaker Boehner. If that had been the case, they could have fired him the moment he announced his candidacy. They didn't fire the guy because he was in some way, not in line with the party of the GOP enough to satisfy Cedarville University's standards. I believe that he made a dirty commercial filled with double entendre, and that when you fill a dirty commercial with double entendre, that a Christian university that is actually very conservative, they're kind of, you know, like the Bob Jones or Pensacola of Ohio. I mean, they are, and I had a cousin that graduated there, voice major, beautiful, great singer, very, very, very conservative. I graduated from Moody Bible Institute. They would look down on us as being too liberal. I mean, that's how conservative this place is. So for talk radio, for the Tea Party groups that are sending out these e-blasts, for talk radio hosts, for people to come along and go, hey, this guy is getting ripped off because liberals are trying to trounce him, and they're all rhinos, and they're all in the bag with Boehner and all the rest. Friends, we need to take a long, slow breath right here and stop and understand that if you purport to be a believer and you're working for a Christian college and you've agreed to maintain a certain decorum while being part of said college's staff, that if you make a dirty commercial with a lot of innuendo about sex and other things in it, you're probably not going to please the people that work at the university. And I don't think it has anything to do with a conspiracy against Mr. Winteregg or being pro Mr. Boehner or anything. The commercial is so bad that I didn't even bring myself to ask Jim Stanley or anybody else that listens to the show if we could air it. I just know right out of hand there's too much double entendre, and even though technically it passes the FCC test, just no need to air it. I'm curious as to your thoughts, especially those of you that live in Ohio that have seen some of this controversy, because it has made larger news near you. But what do you think about that? Is it wise for people to go out and say, hey, he got ripped off, he got fired because liberals are trying to keep John Boehner in office? If you make a really dirty campaign commercial and you're working for a Christian college at the time, is it believable to think he got fired for the not supporting or being against the speaker in that scenario? I'm just curious as to your thoughts on that. There's a lot of people that are propping the guy up saying, hey, he's a good moral man. He's never, blah, blah, blah. He shouldn't have been fired by the university. It's been my experience that most Christian colleges have the right to fire people for even slight breaches of conduct. Some Christian colleges will not allow their faculty to take a drink of wine even in the privacy of their own home. I mean, there are some, and if you do, and somebody hears about it, then you stand to be released from that university. Now, I'm not saying that most of them are that strict, but there's usually a pretty high expectation of comportment with the decorum that they usually are asking the students to follow, and hence why they want the faculty to follow it as well. They don't want to set up a hypocritical situation where the faculty can go out and do things that the student body can't get to do, and that there's some questionable activity involved in that might make people stumble or other things. They set very specific standards and guidelines for the reasons that are in the best interest of the university. And in this case, I'm scratching my head at the talk show hosts and the Tea Party groups that are out there trying to prop the guy up and go, hey, yeah, he got fired because he wasn't rhino enough. He challenged the Speaker of the House, and so the Ohio Republican Party went and got him and shot him down. Whoa, they're going to eat his children for dinner and all this stuff. I mean, I'm not into that. It's easy for me to see what happened, and that it was, to me, a moral failing, a judgment of moral judgment, not of political one. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. So we can talk about that. There's a couple of other things that I wanted to get to today as well, and one of them has to do with. Have you heard about this story out of Fort Collins, Colorado? This will. Maybe it'll make your skin crawl. Maybe it won't. Rocky Mountain High School in Fort Collins, Colorado, the principal there is facing a firestorm, a just all-out firestorm of incoming verbal criticisms, etc., from some very angry parents and residents. The school, which is a public school there in Fort Collins, which is the same city that had the shooting last year, but the school recites the Pledge of Allegiance each week. And so they stand up at some point in time, and they have all the kids put their hand over their heart, and they recite the whole thing, including the under God part, which some schools have taken out, and there's big controversy about that, et cetera, but they do all of it. Every Monday they do that. But last Monday, there is this club that meets at the high school called the Cultural Arms. I don't know what it's about. Don't know anything about it. But a member of that group led the student body in the Pledge of Allegiance in Arabic. And when they got to under God, they said whatever the word for under is, and then they said Allah. Principal Tom Lopez denies any attempt to push an Islamic agenda, saying these students love this country. They were not being un-American in trying to do this. Would it be un-American to say the Pledge of Allegiance in any other language besides English? That's a very good question. We should talk about that. Because some would say, well, no, if you speak Spanish and that just happens to be your strongest language, but you love the country and you're a citizen, you should be able to say the Pledge of Allegiance in whatever language you want to. But we're an English-speaking country, and the pledge means things to not just those who say it, but to those who hear it. And I'm not sure why you'd have an entire student body say the pledge. Like if you're doing an Arabic class and you want to say the Pledge of Allegiance in the class in Arabic, okay, but why the entire school? I don't know. I have very big doubts about this, but he says he's not attempting to push an Islamic agenda. He says these students love this country. They're not being un-American in trying to do this. They believed they were accentuating the meaning of the words as spoken regularly in English. Wait, if you're accentuating the meaning of the words, why don't you just use the words? See, there's a huge debate, theological debate, and it's not a debate to me, but the God of the Quran is not the same God of the Jews and the Christians. Different God. Not Yahweh, not Jehovah, different entity that Muhammad tried to sync up with the God of the Old Testament. But in reality, I don't think the same God would inspire the Quran and the scriptures that we use. I have problems on that level, first and foremost. They're not compatible. The Quran and the Bible aren't compatible. They make different claims about authority. They make different claims about redemption, salvation. There's significant differences between the God of Islam and the God of the Bible. And I've talked to enough Islamic scholars that very few of them say, now they say that Allah is the all-knowing God. They give him all of the attributes that we pronounce to Jehovah or Yahweh. But he ain't the same, not in my book. So your thoughts on a public school having their entire student body recite the Pledge of Allegiance in Arabic, including the name of Allah, where it is under God. We're going to take your calls, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Let's weigh in first with Doug, who's in Mississippi. Hi, Doug. Welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough. So glad you're here.
Hey, Kevin. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I really like your show. I listen to you just about every day as I travel. I want to make a quick comment on what you said about the Obamacare or / Affordable Care Act.
Yes.
I work for a very large sharing ministry that does health care sharing.
Right.
And lots of like-minded families that share the same morals and values that you and I both have.
Right.
And
I'm familiar with the concept. What's the point you wanted to get to, just because we're short on time, Doug?
Yeah, business is booming because everyone can't stand Obamacare. I just want to confirm what you had said, but the truth is people hate it. It's terrible. And for sharing ministries like ours,
well, according to the Washington Post, the poll ran 6-1, people that hate it versus the people that like it. I'm Kevin McCullough. We're coming right back. This is AFA Today, only on AFR Talk. Stay with us.